there is a bunch of breaking news that shows who is really endangering the institutions of the republic. And the answer is it was the Obama administration. I mean, there are a lot of problems that I've had with the Trump administration, but when we talk about destroying the institutions of the American republic, there was so much going on in the last election cycle that was troublesome. And before that, for the last 8 years before that, I mean, I wrote a full book on all of the corruption inside the Obama administration called The People versus Barack Obama. It's worth reading. But in the last couple of weeks, there has been a letter from Lindsey Graham and Charles Grassley, a referral to the Department of Justice. And the referral basically says a few things. It says, according to Gabriel Mailer, as a lawyer, he says, first, that the October 2016 FISA warrant application seeking surveillance of Carter Page did disclose that the Steele dossier was compiled at the direction of a political client. It did not disclose that it was compiled at the direction of the DNC. At the time of that warrant application, the FBI thought Steele had not previously disclosed dossier information to anyone but the FBI and his client. It turns out that he instead disclosed it to the media. And so in the original application, they used both the Steele dossier and a media report based on a leak from Christopher Steele to the media. The FBI believed that that was Steele's first media disclosure, but it turns out that it was not. And so they fired him, and they did not include that in the warrant. Right? Subsequent to April 2017, they did not include in warrant renewal applications the new information that Steele had previously lied to the FBI about media disclosures prior to October 2016. The referral states, quote, instead, the post-April 2017 application still relied primarily on Steele's credibility prior to the October media incident. So we're still figuring out exactly what was going on with the Carter Page FISA application. We're still figuring out exactly what happened with the Carter Page FISA application, but there's some new information that is pretty damning as far as how the FISA application process works. The most honest take here, I think, is that the FISA application process is deeply flawed. Since the initiation of the FISA courts, which is back in, I think, 2002, 2003, since the initiation of the FISA courts, there have been a grand total of something like 21 FISA applications that have been turned down by the FISA court. So basically, the FBI brings information to the FISA court, and they rubber stamp wiretaps. That's a serious problem, because in this particular case, the information that the wiretap of Carter Page was based on was really sketch. Not only was it really sketchy, it may have come directly from Hillary Clinton. So we already know the Steele dossier, this dossier that was compiled at the behest of Fusion GPS, which was being paid by the DNC. That Steele dossier was used as the basis for the FISA warrant, or as the primary basis for the FISA warrant against Carter Page. We already know the DNC was paying for it, but we are now finding out that that wasn't the only way that Hillary Clinton was funneling bad information to the FBI, or may have been doing so. According to a report from Mark Hemingway over at the Weekly Standard, the FBI is now investigating a second Trump dossier. This one is complete with information allegedly compiled by a Clinton crony named Cody Shearer. Natasha Bertrand of The Atlantic says she's seen the memo, and that it covers, quote, a range of allegations concerning the president's personal behavior and financial transactions. According to Bertrand, Obama's State Department special envoy to Libya, a guy named Jonathan Weiner, passed information from Shearer, who is a Hillary buddy, onto British spy Christopher Steele, who was busily compiling opposition research on Trump on behalf of the DNC and Hillary Clinton via Fusion GPS. So here's how the chain of information went. There's a Hillary crony named Cody Shearer. He was working with Sidney Blumenthal. Sidney Blumenthal is Hillary's hatchet man and one of the sleaziest liars in the history of American politics. Sidney Blumenthal and Cody Shearer were working to compile information that may or may not have been false to hand over to Christopher Steele. They didn't just hand it over directly to Christopher Steele, however. Instead, they sent it to Jonathan Weiner. Jonathan Weiner was working at the State Department, right? He was working for John Kerry at the State Department. He was a Hillary staffer who moved over to John Kerry. And so the State Department then funneled that information not to the FBI, but to Christopher Steele, who included it in the Fusion GPS dossier, which eventually was forwarded to the FBI. So it looks like the State Department being militarized on behalf of Hillary Clinton to funnel information to Christopher Steele, who would then send it to the FBI, which would then look to target the Trump campaign, right? That's what this chain of information looks like. That's really, really dirty stuff. Right? Hemingway rightly sums up, if the Guardian report is accurate, the FBI had better have a very good answer for why it's looking at information compiled by the likes of Cody Shearer. And if Steele otherwise incorporated Shearer's information into his own dossier, it raises even more serious questions about what the FBI knew about the reliability and provenance of Steele's information, which all makes the Page FISA request look shoddier and shoddier. If the FBI knew that Steele's information came from Hillary's buddy and was funneled through the State Department, that's damning stuff. It looks like the militarization of the State Department and then perhaps of the FBI on behalf of the Hillary Clinton campaign. Now, that would not be a supreme shock if the FBI was biased on behalf of the Hillary Clinton campaign. Late on Tuesday evening, Fox News released a new shocking report on texts between FBI agents and lovers Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Both of them, you recall, were fired from the Mueller investigation for bias against President Trump. So according to Fox News, Page, this is Lisa Page in relation to Carter, texted her lover Peter Strzok on September 2nd, 2016, with the news that FBI Director James Comey wanted them to prepare an update on ongoing investigations because, quote, POTUS wants to know everything we're doing, which sounds like Obama wanted to be updated on a routine basis on the Hillary Clinton investigation. Fox News says that this is about the Hillary investigation, not about Trump-Russia collusion. Now, what makes this weird is that Obama had said back in April of 2016 that he did not interfere in FBI investigations, that he didn't want to know what was going on in FBI investigations. Is clip 16. Here is Obama saying that he would never get involved in investigations directly.
Previous presidents.
Just to button this up.
I guarantee it. I guarantee that there is no political influence in any investigation conducted by the Justice Department or the FBI, not just in this case, but in any case.
And she will be
full stop, period.
And she will be treated no differently?
Guaranteed, full stop. Nobody gets treated differently when it comes to the Justice Department because nobody is above the law.
Even if she ends up as the Democratic nominee?
How many times do I have to say it, Chris? Guaranteed.
Guaranteed. Guaranteed. But here he is saying, I want updates. Now, listen, he's the president of the United States. He can have updates on any case that he wants. Obviously, Trump has the same power. But the idea that Obama said that he was not going to get involved in any of these investigations, and then suddenly Obama was going on national TV and saying that he didn't know Hillary had a secret email server and he found out about it on the news, even though he was obviously emailing with her at her private email address. The fact that the FBI and the DOJ deliberately overlooked that, the fact that the FBI and the DOJ were coordinating on the Hillary email campaign, the fact that they were texting, I mean, those texts show that they wanted to go easy on Hillary because they thought that she might be the next president of the United States. All of this makes the FBI and the DOJ look incredibly dirty. Makes it all look really dirty. Molly Hemingway has a piece over at the Federalist talking about that Grassley-Lindsey Graham memo that has now been sent over to the DOJ. And again, according to that letter, it says it appears the FBI relied on admittedly uncorroborated information funded by and obtained for Secretary Clinton's presidential campaign in order to conduct surveillance of an associate of the opposing presidential candidate. It did so based on Mr. Steele's personal credibility and presumably having faith in his process of obtaining the information, but there is substantial evidence suggesting that Mr. Steele materially misled the FBI about a key aspect of his dossier efforts, one which bears on his credibility. So all of this is pretty damning. All of it suggests that there's some dirtiness happening here, and all of it needs to be reviewed. I mean, here's what we really need at this point. If we want to actually figure out what's happening here, first we need the FISA application. Okay, Trump needs to declassify the FISA warrant application on Carter Page, because all we've been hearing from the Democrats is that Republicans are leaving out key components. All we've heard from Republicans is that the FISA application shows that there was some sort of collusion going on between the FBI and the Hillary Clinton campaign. We're not going to know the answer to any of that until that actual FISA application is released. Now, what this seems to me is that there's two possible theories. One is that the Trump campaign was being targeted by the FBI on behalf of Hillary Clinton. The other is that the FISA applications that are sought by the FBI are really shoddy on a regular basis. Right? If it's the latter, then we have a very deep systemic problem with the process. If it's the former, then we have a very deep systemic problem with the quote-unquote deep state and the FBI. I always tend to attribute, this sort of stuff to stupidity and incompetence rather than malice. But I can't take malice off the table because I just don't know at this point. Right? Trey Gowdy was already on TV last night, essentially hinting that it was the Hillary Clinton campaign sending information to the State Department, forwarded on to Steele, which was forwarded on to the FBI, in a pipeline of information. Here is the representative from South Carolina.
So weeks before the election, somebody in the Obama State Department was feeding information from a foreign source to Christopher Steele.
When you hear who the source or one of the sources of that information is, you're going to think, oh, my gosh, I've heard that name somewhere before. Where could it possibly have been? And
the foreign source?
The domestic source. And I'm trying to think how Secretary Clinton defined him. I think she said he was an old friend who emailed her from time to time.
Sidney Blumenthal?
That'd be really warm. You're warm. Yeah.
So it is Sidney Blumenthal, apparently, according to Trey Gowdy, all of which should be deeply troubling to anyone of decent mind. Meanwhile, I mean, if you want to know who's destroying the institutions in the United States, it doesn't help when Trump attacks institutions wrongly. I've attacked him when I thought that he was doing so. But it was the Obama administration that was compromising the integrity of these institutions. And it was these institutions who are apparently compromising their own integrity with either bad intel they were funneling to the FISA courts, or FISA courts who aren't willing to do the work necessary to suss out whether an American citizen ought to have a warrant put on him despite lack of evidence, all of which is deeply troubling. Right? Again, the Democrats are willing to believe pretty much anything. Adam Schiff, the Democrat, he essentially said yesterday that he was caught on tape being pranked by radio hosts who claimed they had naked pictures of Trump. That just shows how how willing the Democrats are to believe anything about President Trump.
Okay, and so Buzova met with Trump in New York at some point after the 2013 Miss Universe.
Yes, absolutely. And she got compromising materials on Trump after their short relations.
Okay. And what's the nature of the compromise?
Well, there were pictures of naked Trump.
Okay. And so Putin was made aware of the availability of the compromising material?
Yes, of course, Buzova shared those materials with Sobchak, and Sobchak shares those materials with Putin because she's got.
Okay, so good stuff there. Obviously, Adam Schiff getting pranked by a couple of Russians who are calling him up and saying that he is that he is apparently going to be given pictures of naked Trump. Whatever gets your rocks off, apparently.